How you doing? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. I'm doing really well. How are you?
I'm great. I'm great. So the topic of the day is talking about certain professions that can possibly be closed to you after receiving a DUI. Now, there's some interesting things we have here, and some people have every right to be concerned about this. So maybe you can elaborate a little more about it.
Sure. And all right. So as you know, when you get a DUI, the problem with that is that there's first of all a motor vehicle record, and this is a record that sticks with you for the rest of your life. It's much more involved than people might think, and it's very easy for everyone to access. And that motor vehicle record cannot be expunged in almost every case. If there's an actual conviction that enters against you for DUI or DWAI, that can't later be attacked in court. It's going to remain on there, and you're going to be stuck with it. So with that knowledge, when you're charged with this crime, I'm not saying it's the end of the world, but you need to consider this, and if you have certain jobs, you're going to have to think about this and what that might do. And I would say, from my own experience dealing with people who are charged, some teachers, oftentimes teachers, especially in high school, have to be able to drive students to certain kind of classes, and so the school will require them to provide a DMV record, and a DUI on there at any time is going to interfere with that. So I've had that happen to teachers, and it's something you need to think about. I think something to think about as well is if you travel a lot to foreign countries. With a DUI, it doesn't necessarily mean that you can't enter a foreign country, but some countries would reserve the right to not allow you into their country with this kind of charge. I know that when after the 9/11 thing happened and we had some difficult times with people crossing the border from Canada, Canada retaliated by not letting anyone in who had a DUI. It happened for a while. I think that's somewhat relaxed, but I do think that you can expect to be called out of customs and asked about this charge if you have a conviction if you travel internationally. So something to be thinking about. Obviously, if you drive for work or work for a delivery company, even if this is in the past, you're going to have a hard time getting a job as a pizza delivery guy if you have a DUI on your record. If you're a delivery driver of any other kind, again, that's going to be a problem. Now, I would also note that when you apply to like a graduate school, like a medical school or a law school or a veterinary school, they'll require you to disclose any charge like this. And when things get more competitive, it's going to be a strike against you. I also know that, for example, internships that are given for businesses to students in school, if they have a DUI, that's going to be something that's going to disqualify them for many employers. The employers have their choices, and so they use it as a weed-out tool, saying, well, you have a DUI, you don't. They're going to hire the guy without one. I would also note that if you have a security clearance, like a top secret or a secret or some level of security clearance, you're going to have to disclose this kind of charge to them, and that could affect your rating or your security clearance. There's also licensing that can be impacted as well. Now, it might not necessarily disqualify you, but if you're a stockbroker or a real estate agent, or I'm sorry, a real estate mortgage banker, there's certain licensing requirements, and you must disclose convictions of this sort to them. I know that a failure to disclose this, if you have a conviction, can be grounds to interfere with your licensing. If it is disclosed, it may not disqualify you, but it's something they might consider, and certainly if you're licensed in that kind of fashion, they probably have the right to ask you to show them what kind of treatment you've done after you got that, what alcohol classes did you take, that sort of thing. For example, a nursing license might require that, and in fact is going to require that. So that's where it could affect you. Obviously, if you have to drive when you're at work or for work, for example, a company car, you're a salesman or something of that nature, then they're going to have to check your motor vehicle record, and the company's going to have to agree to insure you. So that may be another something that might disqualify you. I have had many servicemen as my clients, and The armed services certainly aren't going to accept somebody into the armed services while they're on probation for this charge. Now that it's much more competitive to get into the Army, the Navy, the Air Force, or the Marines, any of those, or even the Coast Guard, you're going to have to disclose a previous conviction for this, and it may indeed be something that they choose to use to disqualify you, and they might. So these are things to think about. That, and I guess the number one lesson I wish to give people about this, Jamil, is that this is a record that's going to stick, and it's going to stick for a long time. Oftentimes people, if they remember, we've had presidents who have had DUI convictions. I had a vice president who had 3. So it's not necessarily a disqualifier, but it's going to be hanging out there, and I don't want to, and it may not ruin anything, but certainly you need to be aware that it will have an impact. So that's just something that the people need to understand.
Great, David. Thank you very much. I'm sure people learned a lot today, and we'll talk to you really soon. Take care.
All right. Thank you.